Good Sunday morning and Father's Day. And I'm not trying, there are occasions I try to be contrarian and get into trying to be a troll. There are times I'm doing that. This is not one of those days. And I'm sorry if this video is going to upset some people, but it's just the truth. So before I get into all of this, first want to say it's never too early for the dregs of the beer you didn't finish on Saturday night because you had to go to bed because you're 50 years old. Second thing is, James found my Lite-Brite. I've been sad with that. I've literally just been missing half a decade, and I finally found it. He also found this random set of eyeball lamps. One of them's already popped off. I don't even know why I have this, but it's cool. So, and the next thing I'm going to say is I am sick as a dog, and I'm just to be on the safe side. I'm going to take a COVID test, but I think it has more to do with the unboxing of dusty items and boxes that we've got to put away somewhere. And the last thing I want to say, nobody asked me any questions about Game of Thrones. I got this notebook because I was in a service called Loot Crate where you got all kind of nerdy stuff. I don't even vaguely even know what Game of Thrones is about other than it's a fantasy and has like dragons and stuff. I don't usually use notes when I do a topic, but I wanted to keep myself on point with everything I want to touch and not forget about something, which is what I tend to forget something when I'm just talking off the top of my head. So this morning, while James was still asleep, I was watching one of the feminist YouTube channels where the stitched in this lady who has a military husband that outright told her he doesn't even like them. He doesn't want to spend his time with them. He works all week, and when he comes home, he wants to do what he wants to do, neglecting his family emotionally and bonding and spending time. And the wife just continued to this day to put up with it. I don't know why. So, like I've said, I had an original version of Thrice that was like Black Mirror-ish, like storyline, where Harlow and Sebastian exist 3 times on the planet to finally get to the place when their relationship, where they have a long relationship, where Sebastian's not just dying off in the 3rd year of their relationship, and hence the title Thrice. But in the original version, when Harlow, the first time she's on the planet, she dies of broken heart syndrome. I didn't even know this was a thing until I looked it up, and sure enough, it's a thing. But then she wakes up when she's 12 one night with all the memories from her first life downloading into her 12-year-old brain and body. So think about how terrorizing that was. And she's having to grapple with not only her 54-year-old like memories of life, she didn't really have memories of history because it doesn't work that way. Grappling with her 12-year-old hormonal body's brain and all of those memories clashing with each other. That it was like she was having an extreme nightmare. So she gets up running down the hall of her house screaming because she wants it to be a nightmare. She realizes it's reality and realizes what's happening to her. So the next day she has to go to hospital to get checked out because something might have happened with her. They don't know something happened to her from her parents' perspective that was like medical or mental. And Harlow, again, remember she's mentally 53 or 54 in the body of a child. She is not putting up with this condescending doctor, so she tells him off. She tells him off because she didn't put up with that stuff in her adult life. So then, when they're riding back from the hospital, her father has the nerve to say that she embarrassed him in the hospital in front of the doctor. And I just realized I knew I was going to trigger myself. My dad, you're embarrassing, you embarrassed me. He was always blobbing about how we've embarrassed him. We're children, that's our job. Why was he such a fragile snowflake? he never even hardly disguised his dislike of his family. Like, he didn't even disguise it. If he was not at home stomping around or making stupid jokes that and get mad if we didn't laugh at him, then he was off. Not if he's not at work, he's off playing sport, leaving my mom to fend for everything by herself. She also worked outside of the home. Okay, my next point here, paralleling the second version of Harlow, adult and a child, how at first she's like really pushing back against what she sees going on in the household that is not right, pandering to the older brother who's a criminal and a bully, neglecting her. And it was already determined that she was going to be the unpaid maid. And at first she's kind of like pushing back, but it's not working at first with her father. Because her father at that point still having not realized that she was no longer afraid of him and would talk back. But she said, let me just pretend and just get through this. And just starting being like more compliant, doing more housework and being more quiet. But it was an act. It was an act. Now, in the original version of Thrice, she and Sebastian had been the ones married. Obviously, that's not the current version. They didn't get married. But she loved him so much. She loved him so much the first time they were together that she sits and suffers and pines away that she's got to wait until she's 18, so like 6 more years before she can even go try to start finding him, being an illegal adult, to be able to consent to an adult. Because in the original version of Thrice, Sebastian was 8 years older than her. So obviously a 12-year-old and a 20-year-old can't be together, else the 20-year-old is going to prison. So in the original version, just like the current version, Sebastian was in the band Thrice for a couple of years and in MTV videos. And then he was also a child star in the original version. He wasn't a child's movie star in the current version. So Harlow took all of her allowance money, bought all the movies he had been in as a teenager and as a child, and watched and recorded MTV and would spool through it, wouldn't fast forward through it. Some people probably don't know what a VHS tape is anymore. Till she would get to the Thrice videos that she would just watch over and over and over and over again. And things were ticking on fine for months. This little routine, this little bubble she's put herself in. But then one day her bully brother comes in to the den where she's watching the video. Ha ha, you love fag music. You love that fag, blah, blah, blah. You love that fag, da, da, da. She gets so mad. She jumps up and shoves him so hard. He like caves in to the door, which caves in the sheetrock, makes a hole in it. And then she's screaming every obscenity in the book. And the mom has the nerve to come in there and slap her and tell her to quit using profanity. And she says, when you start disciplining this horrid brother thing, this thing you call my brother, when you start disciplining him and stop letting him get away with things, then I will stop cussing. And at which point Harlow just stands up to her father and says, so either one or two things happen. You call my aunt, Adelinda, and ask if I can live with her, or every single day the cops are going to be at this door. That is not a threat, that is a promise. And they relented and let her go live with her aunt. And that set off another set of problems, but that's not the point of this. That story is really not the point of this. So in my house, when I was growing up, Dad washed his own laundry, I washed my own laundry, my mother washed her laundry, and my brother's laundry. My brother didn't want to wash laundry, he didn't want to do anything. That's a subject for another time. And everybody, of course, were in school or at work Monday through Friday. So on the weekends, it was just like this battle of who gets to wash their clothes. And it wasn't so much a battle about the clothing washing and putting it in the dryer. It's that my dad then wanted to let his clothes live in the dryer until he felt like getting it out, which was not on that weekend. He could have waited an entire week till the next weekend. But if we needed to dry our clothes and we didn't take his clothes and fold them up and hang them up instead of just toss them in a bin for him to do it, then he'd be all, "Whoa, my clothes all wadded up in a basket, it's all wadded up, wrinkled." And I wish I would have said, because I always thought this, but I was too afraid to stand up for myself. And I wish I hadn't have been, despite his wrath. What's the difference between them being in the cold dryer all wadded up and in a basket wadded up? It's the same thing. So what you're saying doesn't even make any sense. That's why I have so much trouble sometimes putting away my clothes. It's not that I'm depressed, which I am to an extent, but it's not depression that's preventing me from that. It's the memories of the laundry fights that's preventing me from that. And the battles about eating that's preventing me from eating. It's not the depression. And hell, I say that I've moved on with my life. I say I'm not sitting here and blaming my parents for any bad decision I made. That's on me. But like I said before, when in regard to bullying or trauma, it never stops haunting you to some degree. It never stops. You want it to stop, but it doesn't. Like I said before, our dad hated spending time with us. He hated even the thought of presents, like presents. Oh, resenting that we had to spend money on Christmas and spend money on birthday. And like, here's a concrete example. We would go once a week to Burger King and to get fast food. And at the time, I did not like their hamburgers. Now I wish almost every single day, I wish I had a Whopper Jr. because that really dang sounds good, especially right now because I haven't eaten anything. That I would order that chicken sandwich. So this would have been late 70s, early 80s we were doing this, walking up to Burger King. And so with the cost, what could the sandwich have cost? So let's say the hamburger cost $1. I don't know, let's call it $1. And then the chicken sandwich was $2.10. You ordered the most expensive thing on the menu every time. $2 sandwich. You're absurd, man. I wish I could just, for one day, have this brain in my 12-year-old body and just tell his ass off. Just tell his ass off. But I can't do that. That's fiction, that's not reality. But what I can do is what I'm doing and being low to no contact. He can live his life over in Alabama, and I'm living my life here in Washington State. And if he wants to make any kind of effort to contact me other than using his cheap-ass flip phone to send me a text where he can't even receive an image or a video because he won't buy anything that expensive, if he wants to initiate some contact, fine. But it's not none of this secondary family members. When are you going to come back to Alabama? When are you come visit the family? I don't know the answer to that. Right now, the last 9 months have been hell for us. Hell. Ever since the Puyallup River Bridge closed last October. Maybe that's even more than 9 months. No, I think it's 9. I don't know the answer to that. Plane tickets are prohibitively expensive. The airplane behavior is out of control. People more and more just getting more and more drunk, being more and more combative out in public in general. I don't know the answer to when I'm going to come home. I'm sorry. I don't know. If somebody gets sick, then maybe. If somebody gets sick, then I can go and apply for FMLA at work and then come down there for 3 months. As long as I don't have to drive around and do all that stuff. Maybe under that circumstances, if something happens to like that soon, that's what I'm going to do. But in general, just to go on vacation, I don't want to go to vacation in Alabama. Might want to go to vacation like in Atlanta, and then my family can come to Atlanta because it's only an hour and a half away. I don't want to go to vacation in Alabama. It doesn't sound fun. And next year we're going to Scotland, so we got to save money for that. Anyway, that's my contribution for Father's Day. I hope that I know of some personal friends that watch my video that had terrible fathers, and I just hope this didn't trigger you too badly, because probably the traumas you experienced were like technically worse. I know what happened to some of y'all. My dad didn't even do that. If you're reading behind the lines, my dad didn't do that stuff to us. So I'm sorry if this was triggering. And I hope everybody enjoys the day as best as they can. And if you have a father you love, spend time with him. And if you miss your father, James' dad, this is the first Father's Day without him. And his own dad cared about me more than my dad. So there's that. I miss him too.